All right, let's get into the top coaching rumors. Here's the latest with Jon Gruden. All right, so this is a very interesting situation. So he's going to broadcast Titans versus Chiefs, in case you didn't hear at the top of the show. And then Gruden recently talked to the Bay Area News Group, said the following: "My understanding is they're interviewing candidates this week, and they're going to let everybody know sometime early next week or whenever they make their decision." When Gruden was asked directly if he was a candidate, Gruden said the following, quote, "Well, I think I am being considered, yes. I hope I'm a candidate." All right, folks, life lesson here on the Cam Rogers Show. It's always best to be humble. But Jon, come on, man. This is like overly humble. Gee, wow, yeah. I hope I'm a candidate for the Oakland Raiders. Jon, it's okay, buddy. You can say it. You are the ultimate favorite to be the Raiders head coach. Mark Davis loves you. He loves you so much, he perhaps is giving you ownership stake into the Raiders organization. Although Jon Gruden did say on Wingo and Golick that there's no validity to that. That is one report coming out of ESPN and Adam Schefter. So very interesting kind of storyline there. All right, so here's some reasons as to why this is going to happen, why this is logical here. So Gruden would inherit Derek Carr at the quarterback position, of course, a guy he really likes. He would get to coach a team that is slated to move to Las Vegas, right, in Nevada. He would not have to pay state income tax. Well, that's a good perk. Gruden's contract could be backloaded to pay him more in Nevada years of the deal. So Raiders owner Mark Davis has offered Gruden, according to reports and according to my readings, an ownership stake in the past, but the contract would have to be approved by all 32 NFL owners if that is indeed the case again. So if Davis is including that ownership stake as a part of this package here, which is what the reports are saying, then Davis will have to kind of take it to the owners, and the owners will have to approve it, essentially. And we all know that Mark Davis loves Jon Gruden, which I think plays into this well. Davis has talked to Gruden in years past and all this good stuff. And one report that came out just a few moments ago from NFL.com, Gruden, for the last week, has been essentially lining up assistant coaches, lining up his staff, getting everybody together, maybe a Gunther, maybe a Rich Gannon. So there's all of this stuff that's just kind of continuing to come out. And you just get this sense, folks, and I'm sure you agree with me here, that this seems very real. This doesn't seem like your typical groomer. And I kind of use the analogy, the boy who cried wolf on Monday, on my Monday show. Kind of like, oh yeah, Jon Gruden, we're hearing about this again. Yeah, sure, it'll happen. This time it seems different. This isn't the boy who cried wolf. There's more validity to this. The reports that are coming out, especially coming out of ESPN, the employer of Jon Gruden, in a sense, you got to put a lot of credit to it, a lot of validity to it. And, of course, the Raiders have to go through the Rooney Rule, right? So the Rooney Rule is they have to interview at least one minority candidate during the hiring process, or else could be subject to a fine. So there is a process to this. They can't just say, hey, Jon, come to Oakland, let's do this, right? They got to comply with NFL rules here and the legislation that was passed. So this seems different because it seems to me like the Raiders are putting all of their eggs in one basket. And I don't think any organization, especially one as respected as the Oakland Raiders, would do this without a 100% guarantee that Jon Gruden is going to the Bay Area, right? Why would you go through this entire process, starting off with immediately firing Jack Del Rio after your football game against the Chargers, and not feel like Jon Gruden is coming to you? So it's one of those deals. Either the organization has really bad leadership, or they know exactly what's going to happen. Jon Gruden going to Oakland. That's the latest with Gruden. Okay, so let's move on to Marvin Lewis here. He is remaining in Cincinnati. So he signed a 2-year extension. He will be the Bengals head coach through 2029. And everybody's probably just face-palming right now. Even the most diehard Bengals fans out there are probably like, what is happening? So Lewis is the winningest head coach in Bengals franchise history, 125, 112, and 3 record. Also took the Bengals to the postseason 7 times. How about this? Since 1970, in the NFL-AFL merger, Lewis and Steelers Hall of Famer Chuck Noll are the only coaches to last at least 12 consecutive seasons in one organization without a Super Bowl appearance. So there is a lot of faith from Mike Brown in favor of Marvin Lewis. But I thought that, and I thought you folks probably thought this too, that Marvin Lewis was supposed to explore new opportunities, right? He was supposed to head into a front office role. My understanding was he's done with head coaching. He doesn't want to come back. But apparently he had a very productive meeting with Bengals leadership. And look, there's good and bad about this. I like Marvin Lewis. I'm a Ravens fan. Many of you know that. I like the guy. I think he's a good head coach at the end of the day. I just think the situation is a little stale in Cincinnati. I think perhaps it makes sense for him to go elsewhere as a head coach or maybe remain in Cincinnati as a front office guy. But I just can't imagine how this would energize a Bengals fan base right now. Marvin Lewis has been in Cincinnati for a very long time. Cincinnati has had struggles filling up their stadium in years past. So I just don't imagine from a monetary standpoint how this is going to help things. But still, you want to talk about stability in a league where there is a lot of instability? Well, Marvin Lewis is certainly right up there, especially with Bill Belichick. He's right behind Bill Belichick as the longest tenured coach in the NFL. All right, so how do you feel about Marvin Lewis remaining in Cincinnati? There are your options. You're LOLing or it's just getting sad at this point. I didn't really say, hey, it's a great move because I feel like not a lot of people feel that way. So, LOL, sad face, or LOL, happy face, or laughing face, just sad at this point, a sad face. So, Marvin Lewis staying in Cincinnati. How about the latest with Bill O'Brien? All right, so this is an interesting situation here. So he is going through discussions, negotiations, shall we say, with Texans leadership. John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, a very well-respected beat reporter out there, said, quote, I expect Bill O'Brien to sign a contract extension after extensive meetings with owner Bob McNair and vice chairman Cal McNair about the direction of the team and the organization. So Bill O'Brien is essentially going through talks with Houston in terms of the direction of this franchise. And Rick Smith is no longer the GM. He's actually attending to his wife who's dealing with breast cancer. We certainly wish them all the best. And so the Texans are now in a search for a new GM. And I feel like it's always been about personnel power for Bill O'Brien. I feel like he feels he doesn't have enough say in the personnel decisions in Houston. So he wants more stake in that. And the Texans are utilizing the search firm Korn Ferry to find the next GM. And that's what they use to find Bill O'Brien. So Bill O'Brien has some familiarity with that firm. All right, so perhaps things are going in the positive direction for Bill O'Brien. Texans got permission to interview Buffalo Vice President of Player Personnel, Brian Gain, who spent 3 seasons with the Texans as Director of Pro Personnel and Director of Player Personnel from 2014 to 2016, and somebody who Bill O'Brien really likes too. So O'Brien has 1 season left on his contract. So the big question is, will he sign that extension? There's no doubt about it. Bill O'Brien is going to remain in Houston. The question is, will that long-term deal happen? And I think it's going to come down to whoever the GM is in Houston. It's always been about the GM with Bill O'Brien. He needs a good relationship with that person, whoever it is. And if there is a good relationship, then you can start building blocks for the Texans to be perhaps a team to watch out for in the AFC. So Bill O'Brien, he's safe, he's fine, he's going through discussions with the McNairs, and the GM search is on. How about Vance Joseph? So Vance is coming back. We'll start off with that. He's going to be back in 2018. And it's interesting, John Elway took a lot of personal blame yesterday for the Broncos' shortcomings. And the Broncos leadership, look, understands that the QB situation with Vance Joseph was dire in 2017. Brock Osweiler and Paxton Lynch and all this stuff. It's like, at the end of the day, there really wasn't anybody there at the quarterback position to be effective. Simeon wasn't good either. So you had a defense that was on the field a lot, a talented defense too, with Pro Bowlers on that side. And eventually got gassed, right, towards the end of the year, and an offense that just simply couldn't stay on the field, couldn't win the time of possession battle. Vance Joseph was essentially playing behind the 8 ball the entire season because the defense wore down. Like, the defense went into those games in the second half of the year tired. And so when that happens, it's not good. So John Elway understands that. I'm glad Vance Joseph is remaining in Denver. I think he is a good head coach. Well, you know, I won't say he's a good head coach yet because I don't really know, but I think he has the potential to be a good head coach, right? The sample size really isn't there to say one way or the other. So in a sense, in 2017, Joseph didn't really get a fair shake. 5-11 mark in the AFC West this year, following 5 straight winning seasons in Denver, something Elway obviously won't take lightly. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Vance Joseph in 2018, especially considering that Denver fired 6 assistants. All right, so they're going through a search here now where John Elway and the Broncos leadership is trying to put in new assistants that fall in line with Vance Joseph's vision. And actually, one report came out from Mike Garafolo. Giants offensive coordinator Mike Sullivan will interview for the Broncos quarterback coach job, which could come into play in terms of Eli Manning's next team. So keep an eye on that one. All right, so Vance Joseph, you'll be back in 2018. That's the latest with him. Here is what I have for you in terms of Mike Mularkey, Texans head coach. He's going to the playoffs. He's got a game to coach and prepare for against the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday afternoon. He was on the hot seat going into that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. If the Titans lost that game, he could have been fired. And from my understanding is if the Titans go 1-and-done here, and they look bad, and Mariota looks bad, and all this stuff, Mike Mularkey could be out as the Titans head coach. All right, so much has to do with the frustration surrounding Mariota's development. I believe from my research here that Titans leadership wants someone more of a quarterback guru to kind of help out the development of Marcus Mariota because apparently Mike Mularkey not getting the job done. So keep an eye out for a QB-centered coach, a Josh McDaniels, a John DeFilippo, if they can get one hired before they get hired by somebody else, right? I mean, in a sense, you're playing a playoff game, you got Mike Mularkey at head coach, you're kind of behind everybody else, especially if you plan on firing Mularkey because McDaniels could have a job by the end of the week, and so could DeFilippo. So we shall see. Mike Mularkey, though, he is okay for now, but things could change. That's a fluid situation there.